Now let's tell you about the group that started this, Hamas. Who or what is the Hamas? It's a terrorist organization, but it calls itself a political party. It is, in fact, one of the two largest political parties in Palestine. Now, Palestine is divided into two parts, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The West Bank is controlled by a coalition called the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, led by a party called Fatah. So the PLO rules the West Bank. And the Gaza Strip is controlled by Hamas. This group is ideologically and politically motivated. It rules a population of more than 2 million Palestinians. And it calls itself the face of the Palestinian movement. Hamas gets its name from an Arab acronym, Harkat al-Mukawama al-Islamiyya, which translates to the Islamic Resistance Movement. Now, this group was founded by a man called Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, a Palestinian scholar and cleric. In 1967, there was a 6-day war. Israel won, and they took over Palestinian territory. 2 decades later, Yassin established Hamas, and Palestinians rose against Israel's occupation. The year was 1987. The movement was called the First Intifada, or the First Uprising. There was a series of violent protests, attacks targeting Jews in Israel. 1 year later, Hamas published their charter. It called for the destruction of Israel and for the establishment of an Islamic society in historic Palestine. And then Hamas continued the attacks. They reportedly resorted to suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and small arms attacks. Their targets were civilians. The international community designated Hamas as a terrorist group. Over the years, it tried to morph itself into a political party. But it kept a military wing, a political party with a military wing. That's what they called themselves. And this wing was to carry out attacks against Israel. Hamas created a top-down government approach. At the top was the Politburo, a 15-member body which operates in exile. Then comes the Shura Council. Its members are unknown, but this council elects the Politburo. It also oversees some welfare programs in the West Bank and Gaza. And then there is the Hamas government. It implements policies and agendas set by the Shura Council, but it's more like a puppet government. So does the Hamas have a representative face? Well, it does, and it's this man, Ismail Haniyeh. He's the designated chairman of Hamas, and guess where he operates from? Qatar's capital, Doha. Hamas leaders have made Qatar their workplace because they had a falling out with their previous hosts, that's Syria. Which brings us to another question. Who supports and funds Hamas on the geopolitical level? Where do they get their money and weapons from? Qatar is clearly an outright supporter. Apart from hosting the leaders of Hamas, Qatar sends millions of dollars to the terror group. In 2021, the Qatari government announced aid worth $360 million for Hamas. That's $360 million that Hamas has never given accountability for. Where did that money go? Next in line is Turkey. Their President Erdogan is a stalwart supporter of this terror organization. Hamas even has offices in Istanbul. In the month of July, Erdogan hosted the chief of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Ankara. Erdogan openly supports the Palestinian cause, and Turkey has repeatedly sent funds to Hamas. And even now, after today's attacks, Erdogan does not condemn them for what they've done. Listen to this.
As Turkey, in the light of the events that have occurred in Israel this morning, we call on all sides to act with restraint, to stay away from impulsive moves that will heighten the tension further.
So Erdogan is calling on all sides to act with restraint. No mention of how Hamas escalated hostilities and how they put thousands of civilian lives in danger. Despite Erdogan's open embrace of Hamas, he's not their top supporter. That title goes to Iran. Tehran provides Hamas with funds, weapons, and military training. It is common for Hamas leaders to meet Iranian leaders and clerics. According to a report by the US State Department, Iran provides almost $100 million every year to Hamas. What about the weapons? There's no clarity on how many they give or what kind, but here's what the Hamas chief says. Iran is their biggest donor of weapons. The Hamas leadership often visits Iran to plot against their common enemy, Israel. And they insist that this is not a proxy war, that they're not fighting on behalf of Iran, but they haven't found many takers. Over the years, American sanctions have forced Iran to cut funding to Hamas, but their relationship remains intact. So for Iran, Hamas is an ally. For Israel, it's a terror group. But how do the people of Palestine see Hamas? A poll was held in the month of June by the Palestinian Center for Policy Research, and they revealed some shocking numbers. Only 31% of the people in Palestine say that Hamas should represent them. A whopping 73% Palestinians believe that Hamas should not represent them. 73%. They say there's widespread corruption in Gaza and institutions run by Hamas. The poll also asked Palestinians another question. Who would they vote for if elections were to be held today? 56% picked the current Hamas chief, Ismail Haniyeh. And that's a clear majority, 56%. So what does that mean? It means that the people of Gaza do not trust the governing ability of Hamas, but Haniyeh continues to be a popular figure. Ever since Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005, Hamas has taken up the role of the de facto authority here. Over the years, they've purged political opposition. The Gaza Strip has remained under their strict control. Hamas has maintained its popularity with social service and the call to raise militias against Israel. But this time, they may have gone too far. They've launched an all-out military operation against Israel. Will this spell the end of Hamas? We'll be tracking this story for you.